The moment the small velvet box fell out of the birthday wrapping paper and hit the hardwood floor, Naomi Patterson knew her life was about to explode. She watched in slow motion as the box popped open, revealing diamond earrings that caught the afternoon light streaming through her dining room windows. Then she saw the card, cream-colored and expensive, flutter down like a white flag of surrender. But it wasn't her surrender. It was her husband's confession, falling at her feet in front of 40 guests, 2 grandmothers, her best friends, and her 7-year-old daughter Zara, who had just blown out her birthday candles moments before. Naomi's hands trembled as she bent down to pick up the card, her heart already knowing what her mind refused to accept. The handwriting was Derek's, that confident scrawl she had loved when he used to leave her love notes years ago. To my real love, it read. Can't wait for our new life together. All my heart, D. The words blurred as her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. Not here. Not now. Not in front of everyone. She looked up at Derek, her husband of 9 years, the man she had built a life with, the father of her daughter. His face had gone completely white, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. He reached for the box, but Naomi closed her fist around it, the diamonds biting into her palm. Around them, the party had gone silent. The mothers who had been chatting near the kitchen island had stopped mid-sentence. The children who had been running through the house had frozen, sensing the adult tension that now filled every corner of the room. Mommy? Zara's small voice cut through the silence. What's wrong? Whose present is that? Naomi forced a smile onto her face, though she could feel it cracking at the edges. It's nothing, baby. Just a mix-up with the gifts. She turned to her mother, who was standing near the dessert table with a look of horror on her face. Mom, can you take Zara and the kids outside to the bounce house? I think it's time for the water balloon fight we planned. Her mother, bless her, understood immediately. She clapped her hands together with false enthusiasm. Come on, birthday girl. Let's get those water balloons ready. She gathered the children and herded them toward the back door, but not before giving Derek a look that could have frozen hell itself. The adult guests began to shift uncomfortably, grabbing their purses and making excuses. We should get going. Thank you for having us. Happy birthday to Zara. They couldn't get out fast enough, and Naomi didn't blame them. Nobody wanted to witness the destruction of a marriage in real time. Naomi stood perfectly still in the center of her dining room, surrounded by half-eaten cake and colorful streamers, holding evidence of her husband's betrayal in her hand. Derek hadn't moved. He stood on the other side of the table, still wearing his ridiculous party hat, looking pathetic and caught. Naomi, I can explain, he started, but she held up her free hand to stop him. Not here. Not now. The kids are outside. Your parents are in the kitchen. We're going to get through this party and then you're going to tell me everything. Her voice came out steady, cold, nothing like the screaming she wanted to do. Nothing like the crying that threatened to tear through her chest. Derek's father appeared in the doorway between the dining room and kitchen. Richard Patterson was a tall man with silver hair and a stern face that had always intimidated Naomi a little. Son, he said quietly. What have you done? Dad, it's not, Derek began. I saw the card, Richard interrupted. Everyone saw the card. He looked at Naomi with something that might have been pity or might have been respect. Naomi, Margaret and I will head out. We'll call you later. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Derek's parents left through the front door, and suddenly the house felt massive and empty, despite the sounds of children laughing outside and the mess of the party all around them. Naomi walked to the kitchen and set the box and card on the counter. Her hands were shaking now, full-body tremors that she couldn't control. She gripped the edge of the granite countertop and took deep breaths. Behind her, she heard Derek's footsteps approaching. Naomi, please. Let me explain. It was meant for... He stopped himself, but the damage was already done. She turned slowly to face him. For who, Derek? Who are the diamond earrings meant for? Who is your real love? Who are you planning a new life with? Each question came out sharper than the last, precision cuts designed to hurt. Derek's face crumbled. Tiffany, he whispered. Her name is Tiffany. The name hit Naomi like a punch. Tiffany. The business partner Derek had hired 6 months ago to help expand their marketing company. The woman Naomi had met twice, maybe 3 times at company events. Young, blonde, ambitious. Naomi had thought nothing of her, trusted her husband completely. What a fool she had been. How long? The question came out as a whisper. 2 years. 2 years. Naomi's legs almost gave out. She grabbed the counter harder. 2 years meant their entire relationship had been a lie for nearly a quarter of their marriage. 2 years meant every I love you had been hollow. Every kiss had been a betrayal. Every time he had made love to her while thinking of someone else. "Get out," she said quietly. "Naomi, please, we need to talk about this. I need to explain." "Get out." The scream tore out of her throat before she could stop it. "Get out of my house right now, or I swear I will drag you out myself." Derek stumbled backward, genuine fear in his eyes. He had never seen her like this. Nobody had. Naomi had always been the calm one, the peacemaker, the woman who smoothed things over and kept everything running perfectly. But that woman had just died in her dining room, murdered by diamond earrings and a love note meant for someone else. "I'll go," Derek said, holding up his hands. "But we need to talk. We have Zara to think about. We have the business. We have nothing," Naomi interrupted, her voice deadly calm again. "We have absolutely nothing. Now get out before I call the police." Derek left through the front door, still wearing his party hat, looking back once before closing the door behind him. The click of the lock sounded like the end of everything. Naomi stood alone in her kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of her daughter's birthday party and her marriage. Outside, she could hear Zara laughing, the sound pure and innocent and completely unaware that her world had just changed forever. Naomi pressed her palms against her eyes and finally let herself cry, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. But even as she cried, a small, cold part of her brain was already working. Already planning. Already calculating. Derek thought she would fall apart. He thought she would beg him to stay, to work things out, to go to counseling. He thought she was weak. He had never been more wrong in his life. Naomi didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that card falling in slow motion, saw Derek's guilty face, heard her daughter asking what was wrong. She lay in her bed, alone for the first time in 9 years, staring at the ceiling while her mind raced through everything she had missed. The late nights at the office. The business trips that seemed to multiply over the past 2 years. The way Derek had become distant, distracted, always on his phone. The time she had caught him smiling at his screen, then quickly putting it away when she entered the room. All the signs had been there, and she had been too trusting, too busy, too naive to see them. At 6 in the morning she gave up on sleep and went downstairs. Zara was still asleep at Naomi's mother's house, where she had spent the night after the disastrous party. Naomi had told her daughter that Daddy had a work emergency and Mommy needed to handle some adult things. Zara had accepted it with the easy trust of childhood, but Naomi knew that conversation was only temporary. Soon she would have to tell her daughter that her father had destroyed their family. But first she needed information. Naomi made coffee and sat down at the kitchen table with Derek's laptop. He had left it behind in his rush to escape yesterday, and she knew his password because he had never bothered to change it from their wedding date. The irony wasn't lost on her. She opened his email first. What she found made her stomach turn. Hundreds of emails to and from Tiffany, going back exactly 2 years, just as Derek had admitted. The early ones were flirtatious, professional boundaries being carefully tested and crossed. Then they became explicit, detailed descriptions of what they wanted to do to each other, what they had done. Naomi forced herself to read them, forced herself to see the truth of her husband's betrayal in black and white text. But it was the recent emails that made her blood run cold. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together. Derek had been looking at apartments in the city, expensive places that they could never afford. No, that was wrong. That Derek claimed they couldn't afford, while apparently having plenty of money to spend on his mistress. Naomi clicked on Derek's financial folders, her hands starting to shake again. She had always handled the household bills, but Derek had insisted on managing their business accounts and investments. "Let me handle the boring stuff," he had always said. "You focus on the creative side of the business." She had been grateful for it at the time, happy to avoid the tedious work of bookkeeping and taxes. Now she realized it had been a strategy. The spreadsheets told a story of systematic theft. Over the past 2 years, Derek had been moving money from their joint savings account into a separate account she had never known existed. Small amounts at first, 5,000 here, 3,000 there. Then larger chunks. 20,000. 50,000. The most recent transfer had been for $75,000, moved just 3 weeks ago. Naomi opened their joint checking account on her phone and felt her heart drop. The balance showed $12,000. They should have had over $200,000 in savings, money they had been setting aside for Zara's college fund, for retirement, for emergencies. It was gone. All of it. She clicked through more files and found receipts. A down payment on a condo in downtown Seattle. A lease for a BMW in Tiffany's name. Dinners at restaurants Naomi and Derek had never been to together. hotel rooms, jewelry, spa treatments, clothes. Derek had been funding an entire second life, and he had used their money to do it. The front door opened and Naomi jumped. Derek walked in looking terrible. His eyes were red and swollen, his clothes wrinkled like he had slept in them. He probably had, in his car or maybe at Tiffany's place, using the keys Naomi now knew he possessed. Naomi, thank God. We need to talk. I've been up all night thinking. $400,000? Naomi said quietly, turning the laptop screen to face him. You've stolen $400,000 from us. From our daughter's future. From my inheritance that I used to start our business. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Derek's face went white again. I was going to pay it back. I just needed some time to what? To run away with her? To start your new life while leaving me with nothing? Naomi stood up, laptop in hand. These emails say you were planning to file for divorce next month. Were you even going to tell me before you left, or was I going to come home one day to empty bank accounts and an empty house? It wasn't like that, Derek protested, but his voice was weak. Things just happened. Tiffany and we connected. She understands me in ways you never did. The statement was so ridiculous that Naomi almost laughed. She understands you? Derek, she's 26 years old. She understands that you're a married man with money who was stupid enough to fund her entire lifestyle. That's what she understands. You don't know her, Derek said defensively. She loves me. We're going to build a life together. With my money, Naomi shot back. With the money I inherited from my grandmother. The money I used to start our business because I believed in you. In us. She set the laptop down and crossed her arms. Tell me something. Does Tiffany know you're broke? Does she know that the only reason you could afford to play sugar daddy was because you were stealing from your wife? Derek's silence was answer enough. Naomi nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. You're going to take your clothes and your personal things and you're going to leave. And then you're going to wait to hear from my lawyer. Your lawyer? Derek looked panicked now. Naomi, we can work this out. We don't need lawyers. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Fix this. Naomi's voice rose. You had an affair for 2 years. You stole $400,000. You bought your mistress a condo and a car with our money. You planned to abandon your daughter and me. What exactly do you think we can fix? I made mistakes, Derek pleaded. I know that. But we have history. We have Zara. We built a business together. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It did, Naomi said quietly. Yesterday it meant everything to me. But that was before I found out it was all a lie. That you were planning to throw it all away for a woman young enough to be your daughter. She's not. Derek started to defend Tiffany, then stopped when he saw Naomi's face. Get out, Naomi said. Pack your things and get out. If you're not gone in 3 hours, I'm calling the police and reporting the theft. Your choice. Derek stared at her like he was seeing a stranger. Maybe he was. Maybe Naomi was seeing a stranger too when she looked at him. The man she had married, the man she had loved, would never have done this. This person standing in front of her was someone else entirely. Naomi, please. 3 hours, she repeated. And leave your keys. All of them. The house, the office, everything. Derek opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He walked slowly up the stairs and Naomi heard him moving around in their bedroom. No, not their bedroom anymore. Her bedroom. This was her house now. Her life. And she was going to take back everything he had stolen from her. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found the name she was looking for. Robert Chin, a lawyer she had met at a networking event 2 years ago. She had saved his number because he had been kind and professional, and because some instinct had told her she might need a good lawyer someday. That day had arrived. Robert? This is Naomi Patterson. We met at the Chamber of Commerce dinner a while back. I need a divorce lawyer and I need someone who specializes in asset recovery and fraud. Do you have time to meet today? She listened to his response, feeling a small spark of hope ignite in her chest. Derek thought she would fall apart. He thought she would cry and beg and make it easy for him to walk away with half of everything after stealing from her for 2 years. He was about to learn that the woman he had betrayed was much stronger than he had ever imagined. 2 days after Derek moved out, Naomi sat in Robert Chen's office on the 23rd floor of a downtown Seattle high-rise. The view was impressive, all glass and sky and the city stretching out below them. But Naomi barely noticed it. She was focused on the documents spread across Robert's mahogany desk, each one representing another piece of Derek's betrayal. Robert was in his mid-40s, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a reputation for being ruthless in divorce court. He had listened to Naomi's story without interrupting, taking notes in precise handwriting while she explained everything from the birthday party disaster to the stolen money to the emails she had found. "I've seen a lot of cases," Robert said when she finished. "But this level of planning and theft is unusual. Your husband wasn't just having an affair. He was systematically dismantling your financial security." He tapped a pen against his legal pad. "The good news is that he was sloppy about covering his tracks. The bad news is that recovering the money might take time, and divorce proceedings can be expensive." "I don't care about expensive," Naomi said. "I want everything I'm entitled to, and I want him to face consequences for what he did." Robert smiled, and it wasn't a warm expression. It was the smile of a shark sensing blood in the water. "Then you came to the right place. I'm going to recommend we bring in a forensic accountant to examine all of your financial records. We need to know exactly how much money was taken and where it went. I'm also going to recommend we hire a private investigator to document the affair and any other relevant information about your husband's activities." Naomi nodded. "Do it. Whatever it costs." "There's something else you should know," Robert continued. "You mentioned that your grandmother's inheritance was used to start the business. Do you have documentation of that?" "Yes, I have all the records. My grandmother left me $500,000 when she died 8 years ago. Derek and I used $300,000 of it to start Patterson Marketing Solutions. The rest went into our savings." Naomi paused. "The savings he stole from. That's very good for us," Robert said, making another note. "In Washington state, inheritance is considered separate property, not marital property. If you can prove that your inheritance funded the business, you may be entitled to a much larger share of its value than he is." For the first time since the birthday party, Naomi felt something other than pain and rage. She felt hope. "How much larger?" she asked. Robert did some quick calculations on his computer. "Based on what you've told me, you could potentially claim up to 70% ownership of the business. Maybe more if we can prove he's been mismanaging company funds as well as stealing from your personal accounts." Naomi sat back in her chair, her mind racing. Patterson Marketing Solutions had grown significantly over the past 8 years. They had 20 employees, dozens of major clients, and annual revenue in the millions. If she owned 70% of it, she could potentially buy Derek out or force him to sell his share, or even fire him entirely if the ownership documents supported it. "I want to see those ownership documents," she said. "I want to know exactly what I'm entitled to." Robert nodded. "I'll have my paralegal request them. In the meantime, I want you to do something for me. I want you to gather every piece of financial documentation you can find. Bank statements, credit card bills, tax returns, business records, everything. If he bought so much as a coffee with marital funds, I want to know about it." "I can do that," Naomi said. She had already been through Derek's laptop, but there was more. There were filing cabinets at home, records at the office, documents she had ignored because she had trusted her husband to handle them. Never again. "One more thing," Robert said, his expression becoming more serious. "I need to ask you this directly. Is there any chance of reconciliation? Because if there is, we need to approach this differently. Divorce is expensive and emotionally draining. If you think you might want to work things out." "No," Naomi interrupted. "There's no chance. Even if I could forgive the affair, which I can't, he stole from me. From our daughter. He looked me in the eye every day for 2 years and lied. He planned to abandon us. There's nothing to reconcile." Robert nodded approvingly. "Good. Because I'm going to go after him hard, and I need to know you won't change your mind halfway through." They talked for another hour, going over strategy and timelines and what to expect. When Naomi finally left Robert's office, the sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of purple and blue. She felt exhausted but energized, like she had been carrying a weight and had finally figured out how to shift it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Derek. "We need to talk about the business. You can't just shut me out." Naomi smiled grimly. Derek had gone to the office today and found that Naomi had changed all the passwords and locks. She had also sent an email to all employees explaining that there would be some organizational changes in the coming weeks. She hadn't mentioned the affair or the divorce, but she had made it clear that she was taking a more active role in company management. She typed back, "All communication needs to go through my lawyer. His name is Robert Chin." She sent the message and then blocked Derek's number. She didn't need to hear his excuses or his justifications. She had work to do. The next day, Naomi met with the private investigator Robert had recommended. His name was James Wu, a former police detective who now ran his own investigation firm. He was in his 50s, with a calm demeanor and an air of competence that immediately put Naomi at ease. "I've already started preliminary research on your husband and Tiffany Bryant," James said, pulling out a folder. "Tiffany is 26, originally from California. She has a degree in marketing from UCLA and moved to Seattle about 3 years ago. Before working for your company, she was employed by a competitor, but she was let go for unclear reasons." "Let go?" Naomi asked. "Derek told me she left voluntarily to join us." James shook his head. "According to my sources, she was fired. I'm still working on finding out why, but I have some leads. It's possible she had a similar situation there, an affair with a married superior, misuse of company resources, something like that." The information made Naomi's skin crawl. Had Tiffany targeted Derek specifically? Had she seen a vulnerable, vain middle-aged man with access to money and decided to manipulate him? What else? Naomi asked. "Your husband rented the condo downtown using a 6-month lease that started 4 months ago. He paid $30,000 up front for the entire lease period. The car he leased for Tiffany is a BMW 5 Series, about $800 a month. He's also been paying her credit card bills, roughly $3,000 to $5,000 a month for the past year." James paused. "In total, I estimate he spent about $250,000 directly on her, not counting the money he moved to the secret account." Naomi felt sick. $250,000. Money that should have been in Zara's college fund. Money that should have been their security in their future. "I want photographs," she said. "I want documentation of every time they're together. I want proof that can't be disputed in court." "I'll get it," James promised. "But there's something else you should know. I did some digging into your business finances and I found some irregularities. Your husband has been writing company checks to vendors that don't exist. The money was going into that same secret account. He's been embezzling from your company." The room seemed to tilt. Naomi gripped the arms of her chair. "How much?" "At least $100,000 over the past 2 years, maybe more. I'll need access to your company's complete financial records to know for sure, but it's significant." Naomi thought about their employees, good people who worked hard and trusted Derek to run the business honestly. She thought about their clients who paid them well for quality service. Derek hadn't just betrayed her and Zara. He had betrayed everyone who depended on them. "Get me everything," Naomi said. "Every piece of evidence you can find. I want him exposed completely." James nodded. "I'll have a preliminary report for you and your lawyer within a week. Full documentation within 2. As Naomi drove home that evening, she felt a strange sense of clarity. The pain was still there, sharp and constant, but it was being joined by something else. Determination. Purpose. Anger that had crystallized into action. Derek had thought he could steal from her, lie to her, betray her, and walk away unscathed. He had thought she would be too hurt, too weak, too devastated to fight back. He had never been more wrong. The preliminary report from James Wu arrived exactly 1 week later, and it was more damaging than Naomi could have imagined. She sat in Robert Chen's office again, this time with the private investigator present, and reviewed page after page of evidence that would destroy Derek's credibility in any courtroom. Photographs showed Derek and Tiffany at romantic dinners, holding hands across candlelit tables. Kissing in the parking garage of his downtown condo building. Walking into hotels together in the middle of the afternoon. The timestamps on the photos corresponded with days Derek had told Naomi he was meeting with clients or working late at the office. But the financial documents were even worse. James had managed to trace every dollar Derek had stolen, creating a clear timeline of the theft. He had started small, testing whether Naomi would notice. When she didn't, he had gotten bolder. The fake vendors were particularly damaging. Derek had created invoices for marketing services from companies that didn't exist, then deposited the checks into his secret account. "This isn't just marital infidelity," Robert said, his voice grim. "This is fraud. Embezzlement. If you wanted to pursue criminal charges, you could. He could go to prison for this." Naomi considered it. Part of her wanted to see Derek behind bars, wanted him to face the full consequences of his actions. But another part of her, the part that was thinking about Zara, hesitated. Her daughter had already lost the version of her father she had known. Did she need to lose him completely? "Let's hold that as leverage," Naomi said finally. "If he cooperates with the divorce, we won't pursue criminal charges. If he fights us, we go to the police with everything." Robert smiled approvingly. "Smart. Use the threat to negotiate a better settlement. He pulled out another set of documents. Speaking of which, I had my paralegal pull the business ownership records. You're going to like this. He slid a folder across the desk. Naomi opened it and found the original partnership agreement from when they had started Patterson Marketing Solutions. She read through it carefully, her heart starting to beat faster as she reached the relevant section. The business had been funded with $300,000 from Naomi's inheritance. In exchange for that initial capital investment, the partnership agreement gave her a 70% ownership stake. Derek held 30%, based on his sweat equity and his promise to manage day-to-day operations. I didn't remember the split was this clear, Naomi said, her voice shaking slightly. I thought we were 50-50 partners. People often think that, Robert said. But you were smart enough to protect your inheritance with proper documentation. Your grandmother's money bought you controlling interest in the company. And since your husband has been embezzling from that company, you have grounds to remove him entirely. Naomi looked up at her lawyer. Can I fire him? Yes. As majority owner, you can terminate his employment and buy out his 30% stake at fair market value. Or you can offer him the option to sell his stake back to you at a discounted rate in exchange for you not filing criminal charges. The possibilities were intoxicating. Naomi had spent 8 years thinking of the business as theirs equally. She had deferred to Derek on major decisions, had let him handle the finances, had trusted him to act in their joint best interest. Now she realized she had always held the power. She had just never needed to use it. Until now. I want to take control of the company, Naomi said firmly. Today. Right now. Can we do that? Robert and James exchanged glances. It's aggressive, Robert warned. But legally, yes. You're the majority owner. You can walk into that office and terminate his employment immediately. However, I'd recommend being strategic about it. If you fire him publicly, he might retaliate by trying to poach clients or employees. What do you suggest? Naomi asked. Set up a meeting with him at the office. Have me there as your attorney. Present him with the evidence of his theft and embezzlement. Give him a choice. Sign over his 30% stake for a token amount and walk away quietly, or face criminal prosecution and a very public divorce trial where all of this becomes public record. Robert leaned back in his chair. Men like your husband tend to be more concerned with their reputation than anything else. Threaten that and he'll fold. Naomi thought about it. Derek had always cared what people thought of him. He had been president of the local chamber of commerce, sat on boards for charitable organizations, prided himself on being respected in the business community. The idea of being exposed as a thief and an adulterer would destroy him. Good. Set up the meeting, Naomi said. Tomorrow morning if possible. I want this done. That night, Naomi couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't from pain or shock. It was from adrenaline and planning. She lay in bed thinking through every detail of tomorrow's meeting, every possible response Derek might have, every countermove she could make. She also thought about the business itself. Patterson Marketing Solutions had been doing well, but Naomi knew they could do better. Derek had been complacent, content to maintain their existing clients without aggressively pursuing new ones. He had let some of their best employees stagnate without promotion or recognition. He had cut corners on technology investments and training. With Derek gone, Naomi could change all of that. She could expand their services, invest in her team, pursue bigger clients. She could turn Patterson Marketing Solutions into the kind of company she had always envisioned. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. She almost didn't open it, but curiosity got the better of her. This is Tiffany. We need to talk. Derek says you're trying to destroy his life. That's not fair. What we have is real. You need to let him go. Naomi stared at the message for a long moment. The audacity was breathtaking. The mistress, the woman who had been sleeping with her husband for 2 years, who had accepted stolen money for her condo and her car and her lifestyle, was lecturing her about fairness. She typed back, "What's not fair is you and Derek stealing from my daughter's college fund to pay for your affair. What's not fair is him lying to me for 2 years while planning to abandon his family. But you're right about one thing. I am letting him go. He's all yours now. Good luck when the money runs out." She hit send and then blocked the number. She didn't need to hear anything Tiffany had to say. The woman was irrelevant, just another bad decision Derek had made. Tomorrow Naomi would take control of her business and her future. Tomorrow she would show Derek and everyone else that she wasn't a victim to be pitied. She was a force to be reckoned with. And she was just getting started. The conference room at Patterson Marketing Solutions had never felt so tense. Naomi sat at the head of the table, flanked by Robert Chen and James Wu. Across from them, Derek sat alone, looking confused and defensive. He had arrived expecting a mediation meeting, maybe a discussion about how to divide the business fairly. He had no idea what was about to hit him. "Thank you for coming," Robert began formally. "My client has some serious concerns about the management and financial integrity of this business, and we need to address them before proceeding with the divorce." Derek looked at Naomi with something like betrayal in his eyes. "You brought your lawyer to our business? Naomi, this is ridiculous. We built this company together. Whatever problems we have personally shouldn't affect." $423,000? Naomi interrupted quietly. Robert had given her specific numbers to use, amounts that Derek couldn't dispute because they were all documented. "That's how much you've stolen from our personal accounts and embezzled from this company over the past 2 years. Derek's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." James Wu slid a folder across the table. "These are financial records showing regular transfers from company accounts to vendors that don't exist. The checks were deposited into a personal account in your name. We have copies of the fake invoices you created, complete with your digital signature." Derek didn't open the folder. His hands were shaking. "You're blowing this out of proportion. Those were legitimate business expenses." "For what?" Naomi asked coldly. "For the condo you rented for your mistress? For the car you leased in her name? For the credit card bills you've been paying while she shops and dines on money stolen from our daughter's future?" "It's more complicated than that," Derek protested weakly. Robert leaned forward. "No, Mr. Patterson, it's quite simple. You've committed fraud and embezzlement. My client has grounds to file criminal charges against you. She could have you arrested today if she wanted to." Derek's eyes went wide with panic. "Criminal charges? Naomi, you can't be serious. Think about Zara. Think about what that would do to her." "I am thinking about Zara," Naomi said, her voice hard. "I'm thinking about how her father stole from her college fund. How he planned to abandon her for a woman barely older than a college student herself. How he lied to her face every single day while destroying our family." Derek turned to her, desperation clear on his face. "Please. I made mistakes. But we can fix this. I'll pay back the money. I'll end things with Tiffany. We can go to counseling." "It's too late for that," Naomi said. "But I'm willing to make you an offer that keeps you out of prison. Are you interested in hearing it?" Derek nodded frantically. Naomi felt a grim satisfaction at seeing him like this, scrambling and afraid. This was the man who had thought he could betray her without consequences. Robert pulled out another document. "This company was founded with $300,000 from my client's inheritance. According to the original partnership agreement, that gave her 70% ownership. You hold 30%. Are you aware of this?" Derek blinked. "No, I thought we were equal partners." "You should have read the documents you signed," Robert said without sympathy. "As majority owner, my client has the authority to terminate your employment immediately. She also has the right to buy out your minority stake at fair market value." "You can't fire me from my own company," Derek protested. "It's not your company," Naomi said quietly. "It never was. It was built with my money, my inheritance from my grandmother. You were supposed to manage it honestly. Instead you stole from it. So yes, I can fire you. And I am." Derek looked like he might be sick. "Naomi, please. This business is all I have. If you take it away from me, I'll have nothing." "You should have thought of that before you spent over $400,000 on your affair," Naomi replied. "Here's the deal. You can sign over your 30% stake to me for $10. In exchange, I won't file criminal charges, and we'll keep the details of your embezzlement out of the divorce proceedings. You walk away, you start over, and you never contact me again except through lawyers regarding Zara." $10. Derek looked shocked. "My stake is worth at least $500,000. "Your stake is worth nothing if you're in prison," Robert pointed out. "And if my client files charges, which she has every right to do, you won't just lose the business. You'll lose your freedom. Is 30% of a company worth risking years in prison?" Derek sat back in his chair, his face ashen. Naomi watched him process the reality of his situation. For 2 years he had thought he was smarter than her, thought he could plan his exit and leave her with nothing. Now he was discovering that he had never held the power he thought he had. "How do I know you won't file charges anyway?" Derek asked. "You don't," Naomi said honestly. "But I've never lied to you, which is more than you can say. If you sign this document and leave peacefully, I'll keep your crimes private. If you fight me, if you try to cause problems, if you do anything to damage this business or our employees, I'll turn over everything to the police. Your choice. Derek looked at the document, then at Naomi, then back at the document. His hands trembled as he picked up the pen Robert offered him. You've really thought this through, haven't you? I've had time to think, Naomi said. While you were with her, I was planning. While you thought I was too devastated to function, I was gathering evidence. You underestimated me, Derek. That was your biggest mistake. He signed the document with jerky, angry movements. When it was done, he shoved it across the table. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, Naomi said honestly. But I'm free. That's better. Robert collected the signed documents and stood. You have until 5 o'clock today to remove your personal belongings from the office. My client will have security escort you. Do not attempt to access any company accounts, do not contact any clients, and do not speak to any employees about your termination. If you violate any of these conditions, the agreement is void. Derek stood up slowly, looking at Naomi with an expression somewhere between hatred and disbelief. I loved you once, he said. No, you didn't, Naomi replied. If you had loved me, you never would have done this. Now get out of my building. After Derek left, escorted by 2 security guards Naomi had hired that morning, she sat alone in the conference room for a long moment. Her hands were shaking, and she felt simultaneously triumphant and devastated. She had just taken control of her business, secured her financial future, and destroyed the man she had once planned to spend her life with. Robert and James had left to file the paperwork, promising to return later with documents she needed to sign. The office around her was quiet, employees working in their cubicles, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded in the conference room. Naomi stood and walked to the window looking out over Seattle. The sky was clear and blue, the city spread out before her like a promise of new possibilities. She had built this business from nothing. She had made it successful. And now it was entirely hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. How did it go? Naomi typed back. He's gone. The business is mine. I'll tell you everything tonight. She set down her phone and took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. She still had a divorce to finalize, a daughter to protect, and a company to run. But for the first time since that horrible birthday party, she felt like she could breathe. Derek had tried to destroy her life. Instead, he had freed her to build something better. 3 weeks after taking control of Patterson Marketing Solutions, Naomi called an all-staff meeting. She had been working around the clock, reviewing every client account, every contract, every project. What she found both relieved and frustrated her. The business was solid. The employees were talented and dedicated. The clients were happy. Derek hadn't destroyed the company with his embezzlement, but he had certainly held it back with his complacency and his theft. Now it was time to move forward, but she owed her team an explanation first. 20 employees gathered in the conference room, their faces curious and concerned. Rumors had been swirling since Derek's sudden departure. People had seen him being escorted out by security. They knew something significant had happened, but nobody knew what. Naomi stood at the front of the room, feeling nervous for the first time in weeks. These people depended on her now. Their livelihoods were in her hands. She needed to be honest with them without oversharing about her personal life. Thank you all for coming, she began. I know the past few weeks have been confusing, and you deserve to know what's happening with the company. Derek Patterson is no longer with Patterson Marketing Solutions. He has resigned his position and sold his ownership stake to me. I am now the sole owner and CEO. The room was silent. People exchanged glances, clearly waiting for more information. I can't go into all the details because of legal issues, Naomi continued carefully. But I can tell you that Derek engaged in activities that were not in the best interest of the company or its employees. His departure was necessary to protect the integrity of our business. One of the senior account managers, a woman named Rachel who had been with them from the beginning, raised her hand. Is the company in financial trouble? No, Naomi said firmly. The company is financially stable. In fact, I've reviewed our accounts and we're in a better position than I realized. Derek's departure will not affect anyone's job or salary. If anything, I'm planning to expand. That got people's attention. Naomi saw relief and interest ripple through the room. Over the next few months, I'm going to be implementing some changes, she continued. I want to invest in better technology and tools for everyone. I want to create a clearer career advancement path so you can grow with the company. And I want to pursue some larger clients that I think we're ready to handle. Rachel raised her hand again. What about Derek's clients? Is he going to try to take them with him? It was the question Naomi had been waiting for. Derek signed a non-compete agreement when we started this company. He cannot work in our industry or solicit our clients for 2 years. If any client approaches you with questions about his departure, please direct them to me. I'll handle all client communication personally. What Naomi didn't say was that Robert had made sure Derek's non-compete was ironclad specifically to prevent him from starting a competing business with Tiffany. Derek was effectively banned from their industry for 2 years, which meant his career in marketing was over unless he wanted to move to another city entirely. The meeting continued for another hour, with Naomi answering questions and outlining her vision for the company's future. By the end, she could see that her team was not just relieved but excited. Derek had been well-liked, but he hadn't been a particularly inspiring leader. Naomi's plans for growth and investment made everyone realize they might actually have more opportunities without him. After the meeting, Rachel approached Naomi privately. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" "Of course," Naomi said, gesturing to her office. Once they were alone, Rachel closed the door. "I need to tell you something, and I probably should have told you sooner. Derek was having an affair with Tiffany. Everyone in the office knew. We didn't know how to tell you." Naomi felt her stomach drop, even though the revelation wasn't news to her. "How long did you know?" "About 6 months," Rachel admitted, looking uncomfortable. "We would see them being too friendly, going to lunch together constantly, leaving the office at the same time. Some people saw them together outside of work. We talked about whether we should tell you, but we didn't know if it was our place." Naomi took a deep breath, fighting back the humiliation of knowing her husband's affair had been office gossip. "I appreciate you telling me now. And I understand why you hesitated. That couldn't have been an easy situation for any of you. For what it's worth, everyone thought Derek was an idiot," Rachel said. "You're the reason this company is successful. You're the one who lands the big clients, who comes up with the creative strategies. Derek mostly just took credit for your work." The statement was validating in a way Naomi hadn't expected. "Thank you. That means a lot. Is that why he's really gone? Because of Tiffany?" Naomi hesitated, then decided honesty was best. "That's part of it. But there were also financial issues that made it impossible for us to continue working together. I can't say more than that, but I want you to know that the company is secure and your jobs are safe." Rachel nodded. "We trust you, Naomi. Everyone does. We're actually relieved that Derek is gone. He was holding us back." After Rachel left, Naomi sat at her desk and let herself feel the full weight of what she had learned. The entire office had known about the affair. They had watched Derek betray her for 6 months while she remained oblivious. The humiliation was almost overwhelming. But then she thought about Rachel's other words. Everyone thought Derek was an idiot. Everyone knew Naomi was the real driving force behind the company. Maybe the affair had been obvious to everyone except her, not because she was stupid, but because she had been focused on actually running the business while Derek played around. Her phone rang. It was James Wu, the private investigator. "I've got news," James said. "Derek tried to start a competing business with Tiffany. They filed incorporation papers 3 days ago under the name Bryant Marketing Group." Naomi felt cold anger settle over her. "He signed a non-compete agreement." "I know. I already informed Robert and he's drafting a cease and desist letter. But there's more. I did some digging into Tiffany's background like you asked. She was fired from her previous job for embezzling. She had an affair with her married boss there too, and when it ended, she stole $60,000 from the company. They didn't press charges because they wanted to avoid the publicity, but they have all the documentation." "Are you sure about this?" Naomi asked, her mind racing. "Positive. I have copies of the internal investigation report. Tiffany Bryant is a professional con artist who targets vulnerable men with money and access. Your husband was exactly her type." Naomi thought about Derek, vain and insecure despite his outward confidence. He had been an easy mark for someone like Tiffany. She had probably seen him coming a mile away. "Send everything to Robert," Naomi said. "If Derek tries to fight the non-compete, we can show a pattern of behavior. And I want you to keep tracking them. If they're trying to start a business together, I want to know every move they make." "Will do," James said. "One more thing. Tiffany's lease on that condo ends in 2 months. And the car lease is up next month. Without Derek's money, she's not going to be able to afford her lifestyle much longer." Naomi smiled grimly. Derek thought he was starting a new life with Tiffany. He had no idea that the woman he had destroyed his marriage for was a professional manipulator who would abandon him the moment the money stopped flowing. 2 days later, Derek's new business received a cease and desist letter from Robert Chen's law firm. The letter detailed Derek's non-compete agreement and threatened immediate legal action if he didn't dissolve Bryant Marketing Group within 7 days. Derek called Naomi's office 12 times that day. She didn't answer. She had meant what she said about all communication going through lawyers. On the 8th day, when Derek still hadn't complied with the cease and desist, Robert filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and unfair competition. The lawsuit named both Derek and Tiffany as defendants and included details about the embezzlement and the affair. It became public record the same day. Within 24 hours, Derek's name was being searched online by everyone in Seattle's marketing community. Former colleagues and clients found the lawsuit documents. They read about the theft, the fraud, the affair with an employee. Derek's reputation, the thing he had cared about more than his marriage or his daughter, was destroyed. Naomi's phone rang constantly with calls from clients and industry contacts, all expressing shock and offering their support. Several clients specifically requested to continue working with her and asked if Derek would have any involvement in their accounts. She assured them he wouldn't. That evening, Naomi's mother came over for dinner. Zara was in her room doing homework, giving them a chance to talk privately. "I saw the news about the lawsuit," her mother said carefully. "Everyone is talking about it." "I know," Naomi said. "Robert warned me it would become public. But Derek left me no choice. He tried to break the non-compete and start a competing business. I had to protect what I've built." Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you. I know this has been the hardest thing you've ever been through, but look at how you've handled it. You didn't fall apart. You fought back." "I wanted to fall apart," Naomi admitted. "That first night after the party I wanted to just disappear. But then I got angry. And the anger kept me going." "Anger can be useful," her mother said. "As long as it doesn't consume you. Just make sure you're not letting revenge become your whole life." Naomi thought about that. Was this revenge? Or was it justice? Was there a difference? "I'm not doing this to hurt him," she said finally. "I'm doing this to protect myself and Zara and the business. If Derek gets hurt in the process, that's his own fault." Her mother nodded. "Just promise me you won't forget to live while you're busy fighting." It was good advice. Naomi promised to try. But first, she had a company to run and a divorce to finalize. The war wasn't over yet. 4 months after the lawsuit became public, Naomi sat in a coffee shop across from Rachel, reviewing quarterly reports on her laptop. Business was booming. Since Derek's departure and the subsequent publicity, Patterson Marketing Solutions had actually gained clients. Apparently, companies respected the way Naomi had handled the situation. They saw her as strong and principled, someone who wouldn't tolerate fraud or unethical behavior. "These numbers are incredible," Rachel said, scrolling through the spreadsheet. "We're up 40% from this time last year." "I know," Naomi said, still somewhat amazed by it herself. "I've hired 3 new account managers this month alone just to handle the workload." "Have you heard anything about Derek?" Rachel asked carefully. Naomi had heard plenty about Derek, though not directly from him. James will continue to provide updates as part of his ongoing investigation. The story was not a pretty one. Bryant Marketing Group had dissolved within weeks of the cease and desist letter. Derek couldn't afford the legal fight, and Tiffany had apparently decided that a bankrupt man with a ruined reputation wasn't worth her time. She had broken up with him and moved back to California, leaving Derek alone in that expensive downtown condo with 2 months left on the lease he couldn't afford. The IRS investigation that Naomi had initiated was moving forward. Derek owed over $200,000 in back taxes from the money he had hidden in his secret account. The government was not sympathetic to his claims that he had planned to pay it back. They had seized his car, frozen his remaining bank accounts, and put a lien on any future earnings. Derek had been forced to move in with his brother in Tacoma. He was working at a retail store making minimum wage because no marketing firm would hire him after the lawsuit and the publicity. His professional career was effectively over. Naomi knew she should feel satisfied by his downfall. Instead, she mostly felt tired. The divorce was dragging on, with Derek fighting over every detail despite having no leverage. His lawyer kept filing motions that Robert dismissed easily, but each one cost time and money. It was becoming clear that Derek was prolonging the process out of spite, one of the few ways he still had to hurt her. "I try not to think about Derek," Naomi told Rachel. "I'm focused on moving forward." "Speaking of moving forward," Rachel said with a smile, "there's someone I want you to meet. My husband works with this guy, Jordan, who's also divorced. He's an architect, really nice, and I think you two would hit it off." Naomi held up her hand. "No, absolutely not. I'm not ready to date. It's been 4 months, Rachel pointed out gently. 4 months since my life exploded, Naomi countered. I'm running a business, raising a daughter, and dealing with a divorce. I don't have time for dating. You don't have time to be happy? Rachel challenged. The question stung because there was truth in it. Naomi had been so focused on survival and revenge and rebuilding that she hadn't thought about happiness. She woke up, worked, took care of Zara, and fell into bed exhausted every night. She was functioning, but was she living? Just think about it, Rachel said. No pressure. But Jordan is going to be at our house for dinner next Saturday. If you wanted to stop by, I'm sure he'd love to meet you. Naomi didn't commit to anything, but the conversation stayed with her over the next few days. That evening, after putting Zara to bed, she found herself sitting on her back porch with a glass of wine, thinking about her life. She had won. She had taken control of her business, exposed Derek's crimes, and built a thriving company. She was financially secure and professionally respected. By every objective measure, she should be happy. But she wasn't. She was lonely. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Her first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of her. This is Derek. Please don't delete this. I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I need to say something. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I destroyed everything good in my life. I was an idiot and a coward, and I hurt you and Zara in ways I can never make up for. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. Naomi stared at the message for a long time. Part of her wanted to respond with something cutting, something that would hurt him the way he had hurt her. But mostly she just felt empty. His apology was too little, too late, and it didn't change anything. She deleted the message and blocked the number. Whatever Derek was feeling, whatever regrets he had, they weren't her problem anymore. The next morning, Naomi woke up to news that shocked even her. James Wu called her personally instead of sending his usual email report. You need to see this, he said. Turn on the news. Naomi grabbed the remote and flipped to a local news channel. The headline read, Local business owner arrested for tax fraud. Derek's mugshot filled the screen. The IRS apparently had enough evidence to recommend criminal charges, James explained. He was arrested this morning. Bail is set at $50,000, which from what I understand he can't afford. Naomi sat down slowly, her legs suddenly weak. She had reported Derek's tax fraud to the IRS as leverage in the divorce, never seriously believing it would lead to criminal charges. But apparently the amount of money involved and the clear evidence of intentional fraud had been enough for the government to act. How long could he be in prison? She asked quietly. If convicted? 3 to 5 years, possibly more given the amount involved. Naomi thought about Zara, who was in the other room getting ready for school. How would she explain to her daughter that her father was going to prison? Zara had already been through so much. She had handled the divorce remarkably well, but this would be different. This would be public and shameful and permanent. I need to call my lawyer, Naomi said. There's more, James added. Tiffany was also named in the investigation. Apparently, she received funds from Derek's tax fraud and didn't report them as income. She's facing charges too. After hanging up with James, Naomi called Robert immediately. I just heard, Robert said before she could speak. Are you okay? I don't know, Naomi admitted. I never thought it would go this far. I just wanted him to face some consequences, not go to prison. You didn't make this happen, Robert said firmly. Derek committed crimes. The government is prosecuting those crimes. You're not responsible for his choices. Logically, Naomi knew that was true. But emotionally, she couldn't help feeling like she had set this chain of events in motion. If she hadn't reported him to the IRS, he might have gotten away with the tax fraud. He might be broke and his reputation might be destroyed, but he wouldn't be facing prison time. What happens now? She asked. Now we wait for the trial. In the meantime, I recommend we pause the divorce proceedings. If Derek is convicted, it will actually make the divorce simpler. We can proceed without his cooperation. That afternoon, Naomi sat Zara down for a difficult conversation. Her daughter was 8 now, old enough to understand some things but still young enough to be protected from others. Sweetie, I need to tell you something about your dad, Naomi began carefully. He's made some mistakes with money and he's going to have to go to court to answer for them. Zara looked worried. Is he going to be okay? I don't know, Naomi said honestly. But whatever happens, it's not your fault. And I'll always be here for you. You know that, right? Zara nodded, her eyes filling with tears. Is this because of what happened at my birthday party? The question broke Naomi's heart. Zara had been carrying this weight for months, wondering if her birthday party had somehow caused her parents' divorce. "No, baby," Naomi said, pulling her daughter close. "This is because your dad made bad choices. Adults make mistakes sometimes and then we have to face the consequences. None of this is your fault. Not one bit of it." They sat together on the couch for a long time, Zara crying quietly while Naomi held her and tried to be strong. This was the hardest part of everything that had happened. Not the financial loss or the betrayal or even the public humiliation. It was watching her daughter hurt because of choices Derek had made. That night, after Zara was asleep, Naomi found herself crying for the first time in weeks. Not for Derek or for her marriage, but for her daughter's innocence, which had been stolen by her father's selfishness. She cried for the family they might have been if Derek had made different choices. She cried for the version of herself who had trusted so completely and been so wrong. And then she dried her tears, made herself a cup of tea and sat down to work. Because that's what she did now. She worked and she took care of Zara and she built her business into something remarkable. She didn't fall apart. She didn't give up. She survived. And someday maybe she would do more than survive. Maybe someday she would actually be happy again. 6 months after Derek's arrest, Naomi stood in her newly redesigned office at Patterson Marketing Solutions, looking at the wall of awards and client testimonials that her team had surprised her with. The company had just been named one of Seattle's top small businesses to work for, and Naomi had personally been featured in Pacific Business Magazine as an entrepreneur to watch. "You deserve this," Rachel said, standing beside her. "You built something amazing out of the ashes." "We built it," Naomi corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without the team." It was true. Over the past 6 months, Naomi had transformed not just the business but herself. She had thrown herself into work with a focus and energy she didn't know she possessed. She had landed 3 major corporate clients, doubling their revenue. She had promoted several employees into leadership positions, including Rachel to Director of Client Services. She had invested in new technology and training, making Patterson Marketing Solutions one of the most innovative firms in the region. But more importantly, she had started taking care of herself. She had joined a gym and discovered that she actually enjoyed working out. The physical exertion helped clear her mind and work through the stress. She had reconnected with friends she had neglected during her marriage, realizing that Derek had slowly isolated her from her support system without her noticing. She had also started therapy both for herself and for Zara. The therapist, Dr. Williams, had helped Naomi understand that she wasn't responsible for Derek's choices or their consequences. She was only responsible for how she moved forward. Zara was doing better too. The therapy had helped her process the divorce and her father's legal troubles. She understood now, as much as an 8-year-old could, that sometimes parents make mistakes and families change. It didn't mean she wasn't loved. It just meant that love looked different than she had expected. Derek's trial had been scheduled for next month. His public defender had tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the evidence was overwhelming. Derek would likely serve at least 3 years in federal prison for tax fraud and embezzlement. Tiffany had already taken a plea deal and would serve 2 years probation plus community service, largely because she had cooperated with the investigation and provided testimony against Derek. Naomi tried not to think about the trial or about Derek sitting in jail waiting for his fate. It wasn't her responsibility anymore. She had moved on. "So," Rachel said with a sly smile, "are you going to tell me about your date with Jordan last weekend, or am I going to have to torture it out of you?" Naomi felt herself blush. After months of Rachel's gentle persistence, she had finally agreed to meet Jordan at a casual group dinner. No pressure, just friends getting together. Except Jordan had been charming and funny and genuinely interested in her as a person, not just as a business owner or a divorcee with baggage. They had ended up talking long after everyone else had left Rachel's house, discovering they had similar values and interests. Jordan was an architect who specialized in sustainable design. He was divorced with no children, and he had been through his own painful betrayal when his ex-wife had an affair with his business partner. "It was nice," Naomi admitted. "We're having coffee this Saturday." "Nice." Rachel laughed. "Girl, my husband said Jordan hasn't stopped talking about you all week. You two had chemistry." Naomi smiled despite herself. It had been nice. It had been more than nice. For the first time since the birthday party disaster, she had felt like a woman instead of just a business owner or a mother or a victim. Jordan had looked at her with admiration and interest, and it had felt good. "I'm taking it slow," Naomi said. "I'm not ready for anything serious." "Nobody's asking you to be ready," Rachel replied. "Just be open. You deserve to be happy, Naomi. You've earned it. Later that week, Naomi attended a networking event for Seattle entrepreneurs. These events had become part of her routine, a way to meet potential clients and partners. She usually attended alone, but tonight she had invited Jordan to join her. He arrived looking professional in a dark suit, and Naomi felt a flutter of excitement when she saw him. They made a good team at the event, introducing each other to contacts and supporting each other's business conversations. Several people commented on what a nice couple they made, and Naomi didn't correct them. "You're incredible at this," Jordan said as they left the event. "You command a room. Everyone wants to work with you." "It comes from necessity," Naomi said. "When your life falls apart, you learn to project confidence even when you don't feel it." They walked to a nearby restaurant and sat at a quiet table in the corner. Over dinner, Naomi found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. She told Jordan about the birthday party, about discovering Derek's betrayal, about the fight to save her business and her sanity. Jordan listened without judgment, occasionally reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something?" he said finally. "When my ex-wife left me, I thought my life was over. I had built everything around her. My business, my home, my identity. When she was gone, I didn't know who I was anymore." Naomi nodded. She understood that feeling completely. "But here's what I learned," Jordan continued. "The person I became after she left was stronger and more authentic than the person I was before. I had to rebuild everything from scratch, and in doing that, I got to choose who I wanted to be. I got to build a life that actually made me happy instead of one I thought I was supposed to have." "That's exactly how I feel," Naomi said. "It's like Derek's betrayal freed me to become someone better." "Not someone better," Jordan corrected gently. "Someone more yourself. You were always this capable and strong. You just didn't need to show it before." They talked until the restaurant was closing, and when Jordan walked Naomi to her car, he kissed her goodnight. It was soft and sweet and completely different from the passionless kisses she had exchanged with Derek in the last years of their marriage. Driving home, Naomi found herself smiling. Not because of Jordan specifically, though he was wonderful, but because she realized she was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy in a way she hadn't been in years. Maybe ever. The next morning she took Zara out for breakfast, just the two of them. Her daughter was growing up so fast, becoming more independent and confident. The divorce had been hard on her, but she was resilient. She had her mother's strength. "Mom?" Zara said over pancakes. "Are you okay? Like really okay?" "I am," Naomi said honestly. "Why do you ask?" "Because you smile more now," Zara said simply. "Before, when Dad still lived with us, you didn't smile as much. Even though we were all together." The observation was profound and heartbreaking. Naomi had thought she was hiding her unhappiness from Zara, but children always know. They always see the truth. "I'm happier now," Naomi admitted. "I know it's weird because our family changed. But sometimes change is good, even when it's hard." "I think so too," Zara said. "Can I tell you a secret?" "Always. I like it better with just us. It's quieter. And you're not stressed all the time trying to make Dad happy." Naomi reached across the table and held her daughter's hand. "You know what? I like it better too." That afternoon, Naomi did something she had been putting off for months. She packed up the last of Derek's belongings that he had left in the house and donated them to charity. She took down their wedding photos and replaced them with pictures of her and Zara, of her team at work, of her new life. She was redecorating her bedroom when her phone rang. It was James Wu. "Derek's trial starts in 2 weeks," he said. "His lawyer wants to know if you'll be testifying." "Do I have to?" Naomi asked. "No. The prosecution has enough evidence without your testimony. But if you want to give a victim impact statement, you can." Naomi thought about it. Part of her wanted to stand up in court and tell everyone what Derek had done to her, to Zara, to their employees. She wanted him to hear exactly how much damage he had caused. But another part of her, the part that was learning to let go, didn't see the point. Derek knew what he had done. Making him listen to her recount, it wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't undo the damage or erase the pain. "No," she said finally. "I don't want to testify. I've said everything I need to say. He can face the consequences of his actions without me being there." "Are you sure?" James asked. "This could be closure." "I don't need closure from Derek," Naomi said. "I already have closure. I built a successful business. I'm raising a happy daughter. I'm living a good life. That's all the closure I need." After hanging up, Naomi looked around her redecorated bedroom. It was bright and peaceful, decorated in blues and grays that she loved. Every trace of Derek was gone. This was her space now. Her home. Her life. She had survived the worst thing she could imagine, and she had come out stronger on the other side. She had transformed from a betrayed wife into a successful business owner, from a victim into a victor. And she was just getting started. 1 year after the birthday party that changed everything, Naomi stood in her backyard preparing for Zara's 9th birthday celebration. This time the party was different. Smaller, more intimate, just close friends and family. No surprises, no drama, just joy. Jordan was there helping her set up tables and hang streamers. Over the past 6 months, their relationship had grown into something genuine and solid. He had met Zara several times, always respectful of Naomi's boundaries about introducing him slowly. Zara liked him, which mattered more to Naomi than she could express. "This is nice," Jordan said, standing beside her as they watched Zara and her friends run around the yard. "Very different from last year, I imagine." "Very different," Naomi agreed. She didn't talk about last year's party often, but Jordan knew the story. He knew everything about her past and he loved her anyway. That alone was miraculous. "Have you heard anything about the trial verdict?" he asked carefully. Derek's trial had concluded 2 weeks ago. The jury had deliberated for less than a day before finding him guilty on all counts. He had been sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Naomi had read about it in the news but hadn't attended the sentencing. She meant what she told James. She didn't need to be there. "He got 4 years, Naomi said. "His lawyer is appealing but Robert says it won't make a difference. The evidence was too clear." "How do you feel about it?" Jordan asked. Naomi thought about the question. A year ago she would have felt triumphant. She would have celebrated Derek's downfall as her victory. But now she mostly felt sad. Sad that Zara's father was in prison. Sad that Derek had thrown away his life for a woman who had immediately abandoned him when the money stopped. Sad that it had all been so unnecessary. "I feel like it's over," she said finally. "Really, truly over. He can't hurt me anymore. He can't touch my business or my daughter or my life. He's just the consequence of his own bad choices, and I'm finally free of it." Jordan put his arm around her and Naomi leaned into him. This was what love should feel like. Supportive, respectful, equal. Not the exhausting performance her marriage to Derek had become. Naomi's mother arrived with Zara's birthday cake, and Naomi went to help her carry it inside. In the kitchen, her mother looked at her with pride and affection. "You've done so well, sweetheart," she said. "I know this year has been hell, but look at you. You're thriving." "I am," Naomi agreed, and it wasn't false confidence or bravado. She genuinely was thriving. Patterson Marketing Solutions had been featured in 3 more business publications. She had been invited to speak at marketing conferences. She had hired 10 more employees and opened a small satellite office in Portland. The business was more successful than it had ever been under Derek's management. But more than professional success, Naomi had found personal peace. She had learned to be alone without being lonely. She had discovered strength she never knew she possessed. She had built a life that was entirely her own, shaped by her choices and her values. Later, when Zara blew out her candles, Naomi found herself getting emotional. This time last year her world had been imploding. She had been standing in almost the exact same spot when Derek's gift had revealed his betrayal. Now she was standing in the same spot watching her daughter smile and make a wish, surrounded by people who genuinely loved them both. The transformation was complete. She was no longer Derek's victim or even Derek's ex-wife. She was simply Naomi. Business owner. Mother. Woman. Survivor. Victor. After the party, when all the guests had left and Zara was in bed, Naomi and Jordan sat on the back porch with wine and watched the stars. The night was clear and cool, perfect Seattle summer weather. "Can I tell you something?" Jordan said, taking her hand. "Of course." "I'm falling in love with you," he said simply. "I know we've only been together for 6 months and I know you've been through hell. I'm not asking for anything or expecting anything. I just wanted you to know." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes, but they were good tears. Happy tears. "I'm falling in love with you too," she admitted. "And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I trusted Derek completely and he destroyed that trust. What if I'm wrong again? What if I'm seeing what I want to see instead of what's real?" Jordan squeezed her hand. "You're not wrong about me. But I understand why you're scared. Trust takes time, especially after what you went through. I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait as long as it takes." "Thank you," Naomi whispered. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Naomi thought about her journey over the past year. The pain and betrayal had been real and devastating. But so was this moment. So was the love she was building with Jordan, the success of her business, the happiness of her daughter. She had won. Not because Derek was in prison or because her business was thriving or because she had found someone new. She had won because she had refused to let his betrayal define her. She had taken back her power and built something beautiful from the ruins of her marriage. Her phone buzzed with an email. Pacific Business Magazine wanted to do a feature story on her company's growth and her leadership. They wanted to highlight her as an example of entrepreneurial resilience. Naomi smiled as she read the email. A year ago, she had been a woman whose life fell apart at her daughter's birthday party. Now she was a business leader being celebrated for her strength and innovation. Good news? Jordan asked. Very good news, Naomi said. Pacific Business wants to do a feature on me and the company. That's amazing. You should absolutely do it. I will, Naomi said. But I'm going to tell them the real story. Not just the business success but how I got here. The betrayal, the divorce, the fight to take back my life. Maybe it will help someone else going through something similar. That's brave, Jordan said. No, Naomi corrected. It's honest. I'm done hiding or being ashamed. Derek made choices that hurt me, but I made choices that saved me. That's the story I want to tell. Later that night, after Jordan went home and the house was quiet, Naomi did something she hadn't done in months. She took out a journal and wrote about the past year. She wrote about the pain and the anger and the fear. She wrote about the sleepless nights and the tears and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. But she also wrote about the strength she discovered. The friends who stood by her. The daughter who gave her purpose. The business she built into something remarkable. The new love she was learning to trust. She wrote about becoming someone she was proud of. When she finished, she closed the journal and put it away. She didn't need to revisit those pages often. They were a record of her journey, proof that she had survived the unthinkable. Tomorrow she would wake up and take Zara to school. She would go to the office and meet with clients and lead her team. She would have coffee with Jordan and plan their weekend together. She would live her life fully and completely without looking back. Because that's what victory looked like. Not revenge or destruction, but building something better than what was taken from you. Derek had tried to destroy her. Instead, he had freed her to become the person she was always meant to be. And that was the greatest triumph of all. 2 years after the birthday party disaster, Naomi stood in the kitchen of her new house. A beautiful modern home in a quiet Seattle neighborhood with a yard big enough for Zara to play in and a home office where Naomi could work when needed. The house was everything her old house wasn't. Bright, open, and filled with the peaceful energy of a fresh start. Today was Zara's 10th birthday, and Naomi was hosting a party. But this party was nothing like the one 2 years ago. This one was full of laughter and joy, no hidden betrayals or buried secrets. Just a celebration of her daughter and the life they had built together. Jordan was in the backyard setting up the outdoor games, and Naomi watched him through the window with a smile. They had been together for over a year now, and their relationship had grown into something solid and real. He had moved some of his things into her house last month, a careful step toward building a future together. Zara adored him and he treated her daughter with genuine love and respect. Patterson Marketing Solutions continued to thrive beyond Naomi's wildest expectations. They had expanded to 3 cities, employed over 40 people, and had just signed their largest client ever, a multinational corporation that would triple their annual revenue. Naomi had been featured in multiple business publications, invited to speak at conferences around the country, and had even been approached about writing a book about her entrepreneurial journey. Long hours, weekend work sometimes. I wanted to make sure you'd be okay with that before I commit. I don't want to neglect you and Zara. Naomi felt her heart swell with love for this man who considered her and her daughter before making career decisions. Derek had never done that. He had made unilateral choices and expected her to support them without question. Of course you should take it, Naomi said. This is your dream project. We'll figure out how to make it work. Are you sure? Jordan asked. Because I can turn it down. You and Zara are more important than any project. I'm sure, Naomi said firmly. We're a team. Teams support each other's dreams. Jordan kissed her, and Naomi felt the rightness of this relationship in her bones. This was what partnership was supposed to look like. Equal support, mutual respect, genuine consideration for each other's needs and goals. That night, before going to sleep, Naomi did something she hadn't done since the divorce was finalized. She took out her journal and wrote one final entry about Derek in the past 2 years. Today was Zara's 10th birthday, she wrote. 2 years ago today my life fell apart in this very same room. Derek's betrayal felt like the end of everything. I thought I would never recover, never trust again, never be happy again. But here I am. I have a business I'm proud of, a daughter who is thriving, a man who loves me genuinely, and a future full of possibility. The betrayal that felt like death turned out to be rebirth. I've learned that happiness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, piece by piece, choice by choice. Derek took away the happiness I thought I had, but in doing so he forced me to create something better. I don't forgive him. I don't need to. Forgiveness is for him to seek and earn, not for me to give. But I do thank him in a strange way for showing me what I'm capable of. For proving that I'm stronger than I knew. For freeing me to become who I was always meant to be. This is the last entry I'll write about him. He doesn't deserve any more of my words, my thoughts, or my energy. This chapter is closed. The next chapter is all mine. And it's going to be beautiful. Naomi closed the journal and put it away in a drawer where it would stay. She didn't need to document her healing anymore. She was healed. 3 months later, Pacific Business Magazine published their feature story on Naomi Patterson, titled Rising from the Ashes: How One Woman Turned Betrayal into Business Success. The article told her story honestly and completely, from the devastating birthday party discovery to building a thriving company to finding love again. The article went viral. Naomi received thousands of messages from women around the world who had experienced similar betrayals. They thanked her for being honest about the pain and the struggle. They told her she inspired them to fight for their own happiness and financial independence. Naomi responded to as many as she could, offering encouragement and advice. She started speaking at women's business conferences not just about marketing strategies, but about resilience and rebuilding. She became an advocate for financial literacy and independence for women, using her platform to help others avoid the vulnerabilities she had experienced. 1 year later, Naomi published her book, The Gift of Betrayal: How I Built a Life Worth Living After My Marriage Ended. It became a bestseller. And 5 years after that birthday party disaster, Naomi stood in a different setting entirely. She was on a stage at a major business conference, giving the keynote speech to over 1,000 entrepreneurs. Jordan and Zara were in the audience, along with her mother and many of her employees. I'm often asked when I knew I would be okay, Naomi told the audience. The truth is there was no single moment. Recovery isn't linear. Healing isn't neat. Building a life from ruins doesn't happen overnight. But I can tell you this. The moment you decide that your happiness matters more than your pain, that's when everything changes. The moment you choose to fight for yourself instead of fighting against your betrayer, that's when you win. My ex-husband thought he could take everything from me. My security, my trust, my business, my future. And in some ways he did take those things. But what he couldn't take was my ability to choose. To choose strength over surrender. To choose building over bitterness. To choose my own happiness. And that choice, made every single day, is what transformed my life from a tragedy into a triumph. The audience erupted in applause and Naomi felt genuine joy. Not because she had become successful or famous. Not because Derek had faced consequences or because she had found love again. But because she had proven to herself that she was capable of anything. She had taken the worst day of her life and turned it into the catalyst for the best years of her life. That was victory. That was triumph. That was the happy ending she had built for herself. And it was only the beginning.